gorgeous. Welcome to the 5th season of the Hormone Puzzle Podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Kayla Smith, a holistic and integrative doctor specializing in fertility and hormone health. If you're looking for insights into hormones, fertility, and all things related, you've come to the right place. Tune in weekly as we record amazing experts in the field of women's health, breaking down those hormone walls, nerding out on nutrition, and having way too much fun. Whether you're beginning your journey or you've been struggling for years, we're going to finally put those pieces of your hormone puzzle back together so that you can get and stay pregnant if that's your goal, as well as eliminate all your hormone-related symptoms for good. Are you ready? This season, we're focusing closely on fertility and hormone health with an amazing lineup of expert guests sharing groundbreaking knowledge, bringing you stories and advice that will support you in your journey. We're here to lift your spirits, give you a virtual hug, inspiration, empower you, and we want you to take charge of your fertility and your health. Thank you all so much for tuning in and being amazing listeners. So now, let's get started on your road to transformation. Let's start putting those pieces of your hormone puzzle back together one step at a time. On today's show, we have Meredith Harris. When she was diagnosed with PCOS, she was told she wouldn't be able to get pregnant unless she did everything her doctor said. For most of her adult life, she had dealt with many common symptoms of PCOS, irregular periods, weight gain, infertility, facial hair, and was told that she was pre-diabetic. She had tried it all. She took medications and supplements and did almost every exercise plan in the book. She has the booty bands and the weights to prove it. She even gained 40 pounds in just 1 year, but nothing seemed to work. And she was really losing hope and feeling less like a woman. And she started to believe that she could never become a mother. But after 2 years of trying to get pregnant, she got pregnant and delivered a healthy baby girl in 2020. And this was the start of her story. After giving birth, she started doing her own research, and in doing so, she learned 2 things. She realized that having PCOS isn't a death sentence, and she can live the life she deserves. And secondly, she had the power to improve her symptoms through lifestyle changes. Once those puzzle pieces came together, her symptoms started to improve. She began to lose weight. She got her period back. She got more energy, and she felt unstoppable. Finally, she became excited about the woman she was becoming. And that's when she thought, I want other women who are struggling with PCOS to start to live the lives that they deserve. That's why she started Redefining PCOS, a platform to help women realize that PCOS is not something to hold them back, but something that can help them become powerful, confident, optimistic, and strong. A new perspective on the term PCOS. This new perspective has helped women to improve their PCOS with simple nutrition and lifestyle changes, and creates a system for them that never lets them fall off track. She hopes that she can inspire and help you on your journey to wellness. Today, we are going to talk about PCOS and Hirsutism, a symptom that is associated with PCOS. Now, let's welcome Meredith to the podcast. Hey, Meredith, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you so much. How are you today?
Doing well. I'm so excited to talk to you. I know a lot of our audience struggles with what we're going to talk about here today, so I think this is going to be a very empowering and educational episode.
I totally agree. Thank you for having me.
Yes, thank you for coming on, and let's just dive right in. Tell us a little more about you, how you got into the work that you're doing, and why are you so passionate about this work?
Yeah, thank you so much. So my name is Meredith. I am the PCOS coach, or one of the PCOS coaches out there. I was diagnosed with PCOS in my early 20s, and even before getting diagnosed with PCOS in high school, I started to see symptoms, not knowing that it's a hormonal thing, it's PCOS. But when I started to, want to date, be out there in the world, I'm like seeing some things popping up on my chin. I'm seeing this facial hair growth. And that was like, this is not cute. I have to figure out a solution to get rid of this facial hair. And that's actually what led me to go to the doctors, because again, me not having a regular period, I did not care about that. The other PCOS symptoms did not bother me. But because I wanted to date, I was like, I need to figure this out. And so with the facial hair, the hirsutism, we'll talk more about that. That led me to the doctors, got my PCOS diagnosis, and then fast forward, during my dating time, again, just hard to feel confident. And, I didn't love how I looked, and it was hard to be in relationships and feel confident. But I was lucky to marry a good man who saw the facial hair and still loved me. But I do this work because I know what it feels like to feel ugly and ashamed. And I want to empower other women. Even with PCOS, it's not a death sentence. You are still beautiful. And how can I help other women feel like their best selves again?
I love that. And I love that we're talking about this because, again, a lot of people are struggling and not a lot of people are talking about this. And it is so common. It's one of the most common fertility related conditions that there are. And then, I just feel like this information needs to get out there. So again, thank you for being here. And I'm really excited to share this information. So as we begin, I want to just briefly touch on what is PCOS. And we've had a lot of other experts talking about this, so we're not going to spend a ton of time here, but just to recap, if you'll tell us what is PCOS and then tell us how it's diagnosed.
Yeah, and so PCOS stands for polycystic ovarian syndrome. It is a condition where, you guessed, the hormones are off. And so depending who you talk to, it's an insulin resistant condition, and you will be diagnosed based on your symptoms. And so in the title of PCOS, the polycystic ovarian, so there's a lot of cysts in the ovaries. That's actually one sign of PCOS. If you just have cysts in the ovaries, it doesn't mean you have PCOS. You actually need 2 other 3 symptoms to have PCOS. And so that can be like high levels of testosterone or evidence of high testosterone, one being the facial hair, cysts on the ovaries, and or having irregular periods or having, some irregularity to your periods. And so that's how you would be diagnosed. And you would have to go to a medical provider. Most women would go to like a gynecologist, and symptoms could be ranging from their periods to facial hair, to fatigue, cravings. It's a lot of symptoms with PCOS.
Gotcha. And so if we are experiencing these symptoms, our best course of action would be go to a provider, let them know what's going on, and see if it might be PCOS.
Exactly. And start tracking your period. I know when I was younger, the period wasn't important to me. But, if you are seeing signs, then it's helpful to start tracking your period, because when you go to the doctor, they will ask you, when was your last period? Many times I would say, I don't know. And that wasn't really helpful in the conversation. And so start tracking it. So if you haven't had it in weeks, write it down. And so when you are seeing a provider, you can have better information about your body. And I always believe that you are, even though you may not know exactly what's happening, I do think you know your body the best.
For sure. And I think that's such a great point to make too. We should all be tracking our cycles. Yes. I talk to so many patients like you tell me, well, I don't know when my last period was. And I'm thinking, right. Well, if we get pregnant, we need to know. We need to track this cycle and make sure that it's regular. And this is a key component of overall health. So if you're not having a cycle, we need to ask the questions, why not? And let's figure out how we can heal that.
Absolutely.
And so tell us what hirsutism is. This is just the high androgens with the facial hair expression. Is that the definition?
Yeah, exactly. And, sometimes, everyone's different. Everyone's genetics background is different. But what is the key thing with the hirsutism that's related to PCOS is that it is excessive. It's unwanted, right? Like a lot of women, we have that peach fuzz. And that's okay. Like we have hair all over our bodies, but what makes it excessive, the hirsutism side of it, is that depending again, on your genetics, it could be coarse. It could be more related to like a more male pattern type of hair growth. And it could be on your chest, again, more coarse. It could be on your belly button, could be on your arms. Like it's really just that excessive piece of hair growth. And I remember when I was getting diagnosed with PCOS, or actually a couple of years after being diagnosed with PCOS, a doctor looked at me and said, your facial hair and your hair on your body is not related to PCOS. It's because of your genetic background. Like you probably just have hairy people in your family. And I'm just like, oh, like, I don't know what to do. Like, am I, do I just live with this, or is it a hormonal? But yeah, it's really that hormonal piece that causes the excessive facial hair growth.
Gotcha. And I hate when providers do that, and it's not your fault and it's not your genetics. This is a medical condition that's causing this unwanted symptom. So ladies that are listening know that this is not your fault and it's not your genetics. And if a doctor says that to you, find another one. Yes.
Good advice. Yes.
And so talk to me about any other symptoms that we might see besides the hair growth, or is that really the main one that's associated with hirsutism?
Yeah, that is one of the main ones. So with PCOS and hirsutism, it's all connected, and everyone with PCOS, their symptoms may look a little different, but it is very likely that you may have irregular or absent period. It's likely that you may have that fatigue, that brain fog. It's very likely that, this is not another common symptom that I hear people talk about, but maybe some digestive problems, maybe running to the bathroom too often. It could all be connected to PCOS and a part of like the extra hair growth. And another thing that's often not talked about, from my perspective, that's really not like a clinical thing that you would talk about, but that confidence piece, right? Like, of course, your doctor wants to treat the medical part of it, but having motivation and confidence is something that is challenging. It could be like another symptom or characteristic, as you have that unwanted hair growth, and then some like effects of having it, depending on your hair and your skin. Sensitive skin could be another factor, because of how you are shaving, or I guess getting rid of the hair. You may have hair bumps, you may have discoloration. So yeah, there's other things that's associated to hirsutism.
Gotcha. And then what about treatments? Should we be looking at treating the underlying PCOS, or are we treating hirsutism specifically? Talk to us a little bit more about that.
Yeah, and I'll give you a little story because, again, when I was younger, I just wanted to get rid of the facial hair. And so I actually went to electronic cysts. I got laser hair removal, laser hair removal done to get rid of the facial hair. And that helped me to get rid of the facial hair. Like it was completely gone. And for like a while, it was like, no hair growing. And I felt good. I felt beautiful. Then eventually some started to come back. And I think during that time, so I do think laser hair removal could be a good thing to do if that's really, just want to get rid of the facial hair. But because I wasn't paying attention to the actual root cause of why I was growing the excessive facial hair, it started to grow back. And so, again, if you're going to do electrolysis, laser hair removal, waxing, whatever, pick your poison, right? It's going to be a good idea to pair it with lifestyle changes. Maybe, again, going to the doctor if possible, to get to that root cause. So when you are removing the hair, it's not growing back quickly, or it may not be coming back at all. So definitely the root cause will be important no matter what solution or path you choose.
For sure. And we're going to talk about some different lifestyle pieces that we can do in the second half that will really help to heal us from PCOS and get down to that root cause so that hopefully the facial hair goes away on its own. But I love that you gave us some alternatives if we want like something in the immediate while we're working on pieces, for sure. And so can you tell us with your experience, talk to us about how we talk to our doctors. How do we talk to them so they'll actually believe that this is a condition that we want to look into further? And how do we get that diagnosis with PCOS?
Yeah, it's such a good question. It's so tough. I remember when I was getting diagnosed with PCOS, one of the first questions my doctor asked me was, are you trying to get pregnant? And I was in my early 20s and I'm in college. So getting pregnant was not a priority for me. And so I said no, and that really delayed me in getting treatment and support from my doctors because I wasn't trying to seek medical attention for infertility. And so you may have to do shopping around a little bit, but I would, before going to the doctors, think about your priorities. Is your priority to get your best life back? Is it to get rid of the facial hair? You mentioned that, your period health is an indicator of your overall health. And so if you are having irregular absent periods, then that would be something that you would want to share with your provider. When I went to a provider fairly recently, I shared that, about my period health and my PCOS. And she said, the only thing that I would give a patient is birth control. And so that was just an indicator for me that this provider, is not willing to look at other alternatives or options. This person just wanted to look at birth control and maybe, she wasn't the right fit for me. And so again, think about your priorities, write them down. And I would say sometimes talking to your provider, it can be intimidating, 100%. And so maybe before you go to that appointment, email your provider your questions. Because sometimes I'm like, I know what to ask. But when I'm in that face-to-face conversation, it's like, okay, I'm so scared to actually ask the questions I want to ask. So to remove that barrier, to make sure, my questions are at least presented, I will email them and say, here are my questions before I get started. What alternatives do you have outside of birth control? Do you work with dietitians or nutritionists? Like, what else ask those questions beforehand. And like I said, you may need to shop around. That's okay. I feel like our health deserves it. We deserve a provider who can listen to us, and actually want to work with us. And, sometimes you need a team. And so maybe you will have a gynecologist or a primary doctor and a nutritionist and an endocrinologist, but maybe you need a PCOS coach outside of that medical system. Maybe you need to look for other naturopath doctors in your area. So just be open to opening your team up and, having someone in your life where you can, check in with, because it can be overwhelming and it's easy to want to give up when you are feeling ashamed and you're overwhelmed. And so maybe some type of accountability can be helpful. A friend, a partner, a PCOS coach, anyone that you can go back to and say, I'm overwhelmed. I don't want to quit, but I need help to stay on path. And so some suggestions on your PCOS path.
I love that. And I just want to remind everybody listening that your doctor works for you. And so do not be afraid to ask questions. You are paying them for their time. And I know it's intimidating sometimes when you have 5 minutes in that office, but know that your questions matter and those doctors work for you. And I think that's also a good point you made about just building your team. That's where a doctor, a functional medicine, a naturopath like myself, a health coach, people that can help guide you and that are going to work on the root of the issue so that we can help it to go away, and we will give you that time to listen to you and help support you. So I think those are all wonderful points that you made, and I completely agree. So thank you for that. And so now we're going to take a short break. We're going to hear a word from our sponsors, and we're going to come back and we're going to talk about those practical tips that we mentioned earlier. What are some things that we can do to, heal the root of this issue and optimize our health with PCOS so that we can get pregnant if that's our goal, or so that we can just have overall optimized health, and get rid of hirsutism. So we're going to do that and more when we come back. Hey y'all, it's Dr. Kayla here. I hope you are loving this episode as much as I am. We will be back shortly, but first, let's hear a word from our amazing sponsor. Trust me, it's something you'll definitely want to hear, especially if you're passionate about fertility and hormone health. Did you know we have our exclusive herbal tea crafted especially for fertility, hormones, and reproductive health? This isn't just any tea. It's a nurturing blend of 5 potent herbs, each chosen for their unique ability to support fertility and hormone balance. Imagine the benefits of red raspberry, nettles, calming chamomile, antioxidant-rich green tea, white peony, and the delightful rooibos vanilla, all in one soothing cup. This delicious, nutritious tea is perfect for starting your morning or relaxing in the evening. So why wait? Head on over to our website, www.hormonepuzzlesociety.com/fertility-tea to support your fertility journey in the most natural and enjoyable way. Now let's get back to our insightful episode and continue our hormone puzzle journey together. Hey Meredith, welcome back.
Thank you so much.
So let's talk practical tips. What are your top 5 things that we can do today to start to optimize our health and hormones and put our PCOS and hirsutism into remission?
Yes, the first one is something you can literally do after listening to this podcast is believe in yourself. Believe that PCOS was not something that was thrown at you that was meant to hurt you and to take away your life. PCOS, if you ask me, PCOS is something to set you up to become the person you were always meant to be. And so really shifting your framework about PCOS. You hear stories of how people gone through challenges and were able to overcome it. Make PCOS something that you can really embrace and become the person you want to become. So start believing in yourself. It is possible for you to live your best life, even with PCOS. Now, that is something you can start, doing, like I said, as we speak after the podcast. In addition to that, you can just think about some habits that are easy for you to start implementing. Many times when I'm working with patients with individual PCOS, feel like deep down we know what to do. It's just hard to do them. So think about some easy habits you can start doing, like drinking water. Drinking water, you should be doing it, but putting in some strategies in place where you always have a water bottle around you. You have one in your car, you have one in your purse. So again, think of easy strategies you can start implementing and then build upon that as you go along on your PCOS journey. My third tip for you to do is to really increase the amount of protein you're eating. Now, protein and the macros, I know depending who you talk to, everyone has a different idea on there. But when it comes to protein, for me and many of the women that I've worked with, protein has been so helpful in helping with those PCOS symptoms, and including cravings, including that fatigue. So many women have shared with me that, they may have slept for 8 hours or more, but they wake up super tired. Sometimes having enough proteins and balancing your macros could be something that can make such a quick impact on your hormones, and you can start to reverse or slow down that hair growth. Because when you're eating more protein, most likely you're eating less processed foods, less sugar, so that protein could be helpful with that. I would also say my fourth tip for you is to consider drinking more spearmint tea. So research has shown that drinking spearmint tea can slow down the hair growth and making your hairs thinner. And so drinking 2 cups of spearmint tea every day could be something easier to do and inexpensive. So pick up some spearmint tea. That could be helpful. I would also just say for my last tip for you, look at some supplements that could be helpful for you. Many times inositol has been recommended. That could be a good supplement for you to have. And overall, just like a prenatal, if you're trying to get pregnant, or just an overall supplement, like for your overall health, could be helpful. Many times with hirsutism, we are deficient in magnesium and other minerals. And so having an overall supplement, nutrition supplement that can help with some of the gaps in our nutrition and help to slow down the testosterone, the androgens that will slow down the hair growth.
I love that. And I love all those tips. I completely agree. Super important to get enough protein. And this can be animal or plant. So people listening, if they're like,
right.
Protein, you can get a lot of protein through plants. So it can be that. And I love the suggestion on just getting a high quality supplement. A lot of people with PCOS, as you know, are deficient in myoinositol. And
yes, exactly.
Yeah, and it's similar to glucose. It's a sugar molecule. So we need that myoinositol to help with our blood sugar and our insulin sensitivity. So I love that you said that. Completely agree. And now let's switch gears a little bit. Talk to us about our partners and our husbands and how did they support us through this? Any tips around that?
Yeah, that's such a good question because I'm so lucky that the person I was dating in my early 20s is the person I married. I think one challenging thing with just having PCOS and facial hair is that conversation. It's so vulnerable to open up to anyone, your partner, your friend. But I remember the first time I actually shared my concerns and my fear with, having this was when his little sister looked at me and said, why do you have hair on your face? Because you're a woman. And I was just like so heartbroken. I didn't know that people noticed it. And so in that moment, I don't know what answer I gave, but after his little sister left us, I was just crying in his arms. Like, I feel so ugly and ashamed. And so I think like when you are feeling, discouraged or ashamed, like share that with someone. Don't hold this burden by yourself because it's easy to stay in the dark and it's easy to keep things to yourselves. And one lie leads to the next lie. And that, because I'm ugly, that means I don't deserve this job. I don't deserve this job. And like, it just cycles to get out of control. So just share with someone about what's happening. And you don't have to, make this, beautiful, eloquent essay about how you feel. If you feel ugly, just say it because that person that you are trusting to talk to, they're really your friend or someone who cares about you will give you the truth and say, no, you're not. And that will help to build your confidence. And I would say also like, just if you're not feeling emotional about it, because sometimes like I will talk to my spouse and my boyfriend whenever we were dating, like, what do you think about this? Like, do you think like when you see my face hair, what do you think about? And just having open conversations about it because it is natural. Like women have facial hair. Everyone, has hair on their bodies. And just hearing their answer to it. If my husband would have said something like, yeah, it's okay now, but you're going to have to get rid of it. It's like, well, who do you what are you valuing? Are you valuing me or how I look? And so just, having honest, open conversations with individuals. I think one thing that totally helped me with my confidence and being able to share my story with having hirsutism is honestly during COVID when we were wearing masks. I was not shaving a lot during COVID. And then, when I took my mask off, it's like, okay, am I going to shave my face every single day? You know what? I don't feel like it. I'm going to walk out the house with some subs on my face and let's see what happens. And, I'm sure people looked at me, but I quickly forgot that I had facial hair because people around me who loved me started to see me. They were looking at my eyes. They weren't like looking down at me. So just like live in your truth, right? Like you grow facial hair. Don't let that prevent you from seeing your friends. Don't let that prevent you from going to work. And if someone says something to you about it, that could be a good opportunity to teach about PCOS. It could be an opportunity to say, yeah, I do have facial hair, period. No explanation, right? Like, I feel like you can build so much confidence, even with having facial hair.
For sure, for sure. And I think we all have something. We all have our things that we're, insecure about. But I think it's like you said, our friends, our family, the people around us, they love us, not for what we look like. So I think that's a great reminder to just feel confident in yourself and know that people aren't looking at that. They're looking at you and the true you. So I love that you said that. Amazing. And I love this conversation. I could keep going all day, but we do have to start to wrap up. So first, we have a couple things to do before we end the show. So first, I just want to thank you again for being here. I think you're just such a wealth of knowledge and you just share so much light and hope for all of this community. So thank you for that.
Yeah, thank you.
And then a couple things we want to do. If you're open, I have a fun little game I love to play with my guests, just so people can get to know you personally. Are you open to that?
Yes, let's do it.
So how it works is I'm going to ask you a series of questions, and you're just going to say the first thing that comes to your mind.
Sounds good.
All right. So favorite food?
This is embarrassing, but I love hot dogs.
Oh, I love a good hot dog. Least favorite food?
Asparagus. I do not like asparagus.
Favorite hobby?
My favorite hobby is to walk. I love walking. That is very calming for me.
Yes. One thing you're scared of?
Oh my goodness. I am terrified of spiders.
Oh. Something or someone that you love?
I love my 4-year-old little girl, Raven. We did go through some infertility challenges, and so I didn't think I'll become a mom, but Raven, that little girl, definitely gives me hope and a lot of other women hope too. So that's my girl.
Oh, I love that. And then the last one, your favorite quote?
My favorite quote is, and hopefully I don't say it wrong, it's, don't be satisfied with the way things were just because they were or always have been. And what that teaches me is, because this is how it's always been done, doesn't mean this is your future. So you can always change history no matter where you are in your journey.
I love that. It's amazing. Well, tell everybody where they can find you and learn more about working with you.
Yes. And so my Instagram and TikTok handle is Mary Cherry. That's MERRICHERRI. And my website is redefiningpcos.com.
I love that. And any final thoughts, any piece of advice you want to leave with our audience?
Yeah, I would really say, this is what my platform is all about, is redefining PCOS and create a new acronym for PCOS. PCOS is not your label of polycystic ovarian syndrome. Let's label it to be you becoming powerful and confident, optimistic, and strong. So as you are going about your life and your day, think about that you are PCOS, powerful, confident, optimistic, and strong.
Oh, I love that. Amazing. Well, thank you again for being here.
Yes, thank you. It's such an honor being here today, and you are doing amazing work, and I'm just so happy that I was able to be here today.
Oh, thank you so much. And thank you to everybody who's listening to this episode of the Hormone Puzzle Podcast. We'll see you in the next episode. Bye for now. Hey, hang on a second. Before you go, I've got some fantastic free resources waiting for you over at our website. You can find that at www.hormonepuzzlesociety.com. You'll find everything from a fertility meal plan, a cycle optimizing quick start guide, even a pregnancy meal plan. Plus, there's masterclasses and blog posts from myself and leading experts in the fields of fertility, hormones, and nutrition, all designed to support you on your journey. And I wish there had been something like this when I was going through my 2 years of unexplained infertility, but there just wasn't. That's why I put all of these resources together for you. So make sure you go and check these out and make the most of the support that I've arranged for you. And here's a little secret. These are the same strategies and foods that helped me conceive not once, but twice, even after my doctor said that I couldn't. So I know that these things work. Make sure that you take advantage of that. And I can't wait for you to be our next success story. Thank you so much for joining me. And remember to visit our website at www.hormonepuzzlesociety.com for the show notes of today's episode. And if you've enjoyed our time together, please subscribe and leave us a review. I so appreciate you and thank you for being a valued listener. See you on the next episode of the Hormone Puzzle Podcast. Take care and lots of love.